Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Here begins the essay. The year 1826 witnessed the publication of a remarkable contribution to the annals of mathematics sur la résolution algébrique des équations, authored by Niels Henrik Abel. This memoir, submitted to the Académie des Sciences in Paris, represented a monumental effort to address a centuries-old question: the solvability of quintic equations by radicals. Abel's investigations, though initially met with neglect, eventually established a profound and lasting impact, fundamentally altering the course of algebraic inquiry. This essay embarks on a detailed examination of the claims and arguments presented within sur la résolution algébrique des équations, scrutinizing its structure, methodology, and ultimate conclusions to offer a rigorous assessment of its significance and logical validity. Section 1: Introduction and Problem Statement. Abel's memoir opens with a direct confrontation of the classical problem of solving algebraic equations through radicals. He immediately clarifies his objective to rigorously demonstrate the impossibility of solving general equations of degree 5 or higher using only algebraic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the extraction of roots. This stands in stark contrast to the success achieved with equations of degree less than 5, where elegant formulas, such as the quadratic formula, provided explicit solutions. Abel emphasizes that while particular quintic equations may be solvable by radicals, a general formula applicable to all such equations is demonstrably non-existent. He establishes this as his central contention, laying the foundation for the subsequent analytical journey. Abel presents this endeavor not simply as resolving a technical issue as a necessary clarification to prevent further fruitless searches for a non-existent general solution, thereby redirecting mathematical effort toward more productive avenues. Section 2: Preliminaries on algebraic functions and radicals. The next segment of Abel's work establishes the crucial definitions and properties of algebraic functions and radicals that underpin his later arguments. He meticulously builds a vocabulary of terms, including algebraic quantity, rational function, and radical expression. Abel insists on clarity in defining these terms, realizing that ambiguity could undermine the integrity of the subsequent proofs. He posits that any quantity obtained from the variable and rational numbers through a finite number of algebraic operations is, by definition, an algebraic function. He then proceeds to precisely articulate the nature of radicals, recognizing their potential for ambiguity, particularly when dealing with complex numbers. Abel emphasizes the necessity of consistently choosing a specific root for each radical to ensure the single-valuedness of algebraic expressions. He discusses how the composition of algebraic functions and radicals produces more complex algebraic functions, highlighting the iterative nature of the algebraic operations used to construct such expressions. The essence of this preparatory stage lies in establishing a solid conceptual foundation, ensuring all subsequent arguments are based on unambiguous and well-defined terms. This rigor is paramount for the validity of his ensuing claims. Section 3: The structure of solvable equations. Abel delves into the intrinsic structure of equations solvable by radicals. He proposes the central claim that if an equation admits a solution expressible through radicals, that solution must conform to a specific pattern of nested radical expressions. He argues that such a solution can always be decomposed into a series of nested radicals, each of which is defined as a root of a lower degree equation whose coefficients depend rationally on the variable and previously introduced radicals. The crucial point here is that a solution by radicals is not merely some arbitrary algebraic expression, but possesses a specific hierarchical structure. Abel then begins to dissect this nested structure, attempting to show that it possesses properties that are incompatible with the general quintic equation. His approach is to progressively restrict the possible forms of the radicals involved, demonstrating that they cannot generate all possible coefficients and define a general quintic. This represents a critical step in his overall strategy. He seeks to demonstrate that the very form of solutions expressible by radicals prohibits them from being general solutions to the quintic equation. Section 4. Investigation of the properties of radicals. This section undertakes a meticulous examination of the inherent properties of radicals, particularly their behavior under permutations of roots. Abel emphasizes a critical feature of radical expressions, their inherent sensitivity to changes in the underlying variable. He posits that if the variable undergoes a transformation, such as a permutation of the roots of the equation, the value of the radical expression may also change. However, crucial to his reasoning is the observation that the set of possible values the radical expression can take is finite. The number of possible values depends directly on the index of the radical. Abel asserts that if a radical expression is part of a solution to an algebraic equation, its behavior under permutations must be compatible with the symmetries of the equation itself. If the equation remains unchanged under a particular permutation, the radical expression that forms part of the solution must also exhibit some form of invariance, either remaining unchanged itself or transforming in a manner consistent with the equation's overall symmetry. This section prepares the ground for showing that the radicals needed to solve a general quintic equation would require transformations incompatible with its underlying symmetry, leading to a contradiction of the assumption that a general solution exists in radical form. Section 5. The impossibility. Proof. First steps. Abel initiates a formal proof of the impossibility of solving general quintic equations by radicals. He commences by assuming the contrary, that a general quintic equation does possess a solution expressible in radicals. From this initial assumption, he proceeds to derive a contradiction. Abel first considers the outermost radical within the supposed solution. He demonstrates that this radical can be expressed in a simplified form, where its index is prime. He states that this simplification is possible because, if the index is composite, the radical can be decomposed into nested radicals with prime indices. Abel then examines the algebraic equation satisfied by this outermost radical. He argues that this equation must have a degree lower than the degree of the original quintic, otherwise the radical would be the solution to an equation more complex than the original problem. This reduction in degree is essential to Abel's strategy. He aims to gradually simplify the radical expression through a series of reductions, ultimately leading to a contradiction. He then introduces the concept of rejoining this outermost radical to the field of rational numbers, which expands the set of allowed algebraic operations. By carefully analysing the effect of this adjunction, Abel begins to uncover the inherent limitations that prevent a general solution to the quintic equation from being expressed in terms of radicals. Section 6. Continuing the impossibility. Proof. Permutations and rationality. Abel continues the proof by meticulously analysing the consequences of permuting the roots of the quintic equation on the radical expressions assumed to form part of the solution. He emphasises that the radicals involved in the solution exist within an algebraic extension field generated by the roots of the quintic. Therefore, any permutation of the roots of the quintic will induce a corresponding permutation of the elements in this extension field, including the radical expressions. Abel argues that if the solution is to be valid for all quintic equations, then the radical expressions must maintain a specific relationship under any permutation of the roots. The numerator and denominator of rational functions involving the roots must transform in a way that ensures the overall expression remains unchanged, or transforms in a predictable manner. He specifically argues that if a particular radical, say the outermost one, takes on different values under different permutations, these values must be rationally related. If they were not rationally related, the solution would depend on the specific choice of the root, rather than providing a unified solution valid for all quintic equations. This rational relationship among the various values of the radical allows Abel to restrict the possible forms that the radical can take, bringing him closer to the desired contradiction. Section 7 Refinement of radical form and further reductions. Abel hones in on the form of the outermost radical within the purported solution. He aims to demonstrate that it can be further simplified, exhibiting a specific structure that is incompatible with the requirements of a general solution. He argues that the radical can be expressed such that its exponent is a prime number. He presents this as a necessary condition for the existence of a general solution and proceeds to analyze the implications of this condition. Abel asserts that if the index of the radical is not prime, it can be decomposed into radicals with prime indices, thereby allowing a consideration of only prime indices without loss of generality. He claims that by cleverly manipulating the radical expression, the degree of the equation that the radical satisfies can be reduced. This reduction is achieved by carefully examining the relationship between the radical and its conjugate values, which are obtained by applying various automorphisms to the field extension containing the radical. By analyzing these conjugate values, Abel is able to construct a new equation of lower degree that the radical also satisfies. This equation provides additional constraints on the form of the radical, further narrowing down the possibilities and bringing the contradiction closer into Section 8 core argument linking permutations to solvability. This section unveils the central argument connecting the behavior of radical expressions under permutations of the roots to the overall solvability of the equation. Abel states the relationship between the order of the permutation group and the degree of the radical extension. Specifically, if the equation is solvable by radicals, then the order of the Galois group, the group of permutations of the roots, must be divisible by the prime index of the radical. He posits this as a consequence of the fact that the radical generates an extension field of prime degree. The crucial idea is that the structure of the radical extension directly reflects the structure of the Galois group. Therefore, if the radical is to be part of a solution obtained through radicals, there must be a corresponding subgroup of the Galois group with order equal to the index of the radical. Abel then uses this connection to argue that certain permutations must leave the radical unchanged, otherwise the radical would not be properly contained within the algebraic extension determined by the roots. This invariance under specific permutations leads to stringent restrictions on the form of the radical, ultimately demonstrating its incompatibility with the general quintic equation. Section 9 Deriving the formal contradiction. Having established the constraints on the radical expression and its relationship to the permutations of the roots, Abel proceeds to derive the formal contradiction that invalidates the assumption of solvability. He argues that the invariance of the radical under specific permutations forces it to be expressible as a rational function of the roots, a claim that contradicts the very nature of radicals. He claims that if a radical, originally assumed to be irreducible, demonstrates invariance under a significant number of permutations, the degree of the irreducible polynomial it satisfies is reduced. This reduction continues until the polynomial becomes linear, which means the radical can be expressed as a rational function of the roots. He underscores the fact that this is a necessary condition for the existence of a general solution by radicals, but demonstrates that it leads to an impossible situation within the context of the quintic equation. The fundamental contradiction arises from the fact that the radical was initially assumed to be necessary to extend the field of rational numbers, and now it is shown to be expressible within that field. This negates the very purpose of introducing the radical in the first place, demonstrably refuting the assumption that a general solution to the quintic equation can be expressed in terms of radicals. This rigorous demonstration forms the climax of his impossibility proof. Section 10 Generalization and Implications. Following the demonstration of the impossibility of solving the general quintic equation, Abel briefly considers the broader implications of his result and hints at the potential for generalization to equations of higher degree. He acknowledges that while his proof specifically targets the quintic equation, the underlying principles and techniques employed can be extended to demonstrate the insolvability of general equations of degree greater than 5. He claims that the core argument concerning the incompatibility between the behavior of radical expressions under permutations and the structure of the Galois group holds for equations of higher degree. He suggests this impossibility arises from the increasingly complex structure of the permutation groups associated with polynomials of higher degree and the inability of radicals to mimic such complex symmetries. Abel does not provide a detailed proof for the general case in this memoir, but he asserts that such a proof can be constructed by building upon the foundations established in his analysis of the quintic equation. He emphasizes that his work lays the groundwork for a deeper understanding of the conditions under which an algebraic equation can be solved by radicals, paving the way for classifying equations according to their solvability properties. Section 11 Contemporary limitations and subsequent developments. While groundbreaking in its own right, Abel's original proof possessed certain limitations and was subsequently refined and expanded upon by later mathematicians. One notable limitation was the absence of a fully developed theory of Galois groups, which now provides a more elegant and powerful framework for understanding the solvability of equations. Though Abel's work implicitly anticipated many of the concepts of Galois theory, the explicit formulation of the group-theoretic framework came later. Furthermore, Abel's original proof relied on certain assumptions about the field of coefficients, which were subsequently generalized by other mathematicians. The initial proof also lacked the full topological rigor that would become standard in later mathematical analysis. Subsequent developments, particularly by Galois, significantly enhanced the understanding of solvability by establishing a direct connection between the structure of the Galois group of an equation and its solvability properties. These advancements solidified Abel's initial claims and provided a more comprehensive and insightful understanding of the conditions under which an algebraic equation can be solved in radicals. Section 12 Reception and Impact. The initial reception of Abel's memoir by the Académie des Sciences was, regrettably, characterized by indifference and neglect. The manuscript was assigned to a committee consisting of prominent mathematicians, including Cauchy, but it languished unexamined for an extended period. Some accounts suggest that Cauchy misplaced or even lost the manuscript, contributing to the delay in its evaluation. The reasons for this initial neglect are multifaceted. Abel's work was highly innovative and technically demanding, perhaps exceeding the immediate comprehension of some of his contemporaries. The lack of a fully developed theory of Galois groups at the time may have also hindered the full appreciation of Abel's insights. Further, a mathematical community was still grappling with the implications of complex numbers and non-Euclidean geometries, and Abel's abstract approach may have seemed somewhat unconventional. Despite this initial neglect, Abel's work gradually gained recognition as its significance became increasingly apparent. His memoirs circulated among mathematicians, and his ideas were eventually incorporated into the mainstream of algebraic research. The posthumous award of the Abel Prize, one of the highest honors in mathematics, serves as a testament to the enduring impact of his contributions. Section 13 Enduring Significance and Legacy. Abel's sur la résolution algébrique des equations stands as a watershed moment in the history of algebra. It resolved a long-standing problem, decisively demonstrating the impossibility of solving general quintic equations by radicals. More importantly, it pioneered new methods and concepts that transformed the field of algebra. Abel's work emphasized rigor and abstraction, and his approach laid the foundation for the development of Galois theory. The concepts and techniques introduced in his memoir continue to be fundamental tools in algebraic research, finding applications in diverse areas, including number theory, cryptography, and theoretical physics. The legacy of Abel's work extends far beyond the specific problem of quintic equations, shaping the very landscape of modern algebra and inspiring generations of mathematicians to pursue deeper understanding of the structure and properties of algebraic systems. One might consider that, in a sense, Abel's impossibility result also opened new possibilities, redirecting mathematical energy toward more fruitful areas of investigation. In summation, Abel sur la résolution algébrique des équations constitutes a landmark achievement in mathematical history. Through a rigorous and innovative approach, he definitively established the impossibility of solving general quintic equations by radicals. This groundbreaking work not only resolved a long-standing problem, but also laid the foundation for the development of Galois theory and transformed the landscape of modern algebra. Despite initial neglect, Abel's memoir eventually gained recognition as a pivotal contribution, shaping the course of mathematical research and inspiring future generations of mathematicians. Its enduring significance lies not only in its specific result, but also in its profound methodological insights and its profound impact on the evolution of algebraic thought.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.